see. Are we live on Twitter? This is my first time streaming to Twitter on Rumble Studio. How about that? Hey, what's up, all you freaks and disasters? I'm Matt Houseman. Okay, just a second. Forgot to mute the replay. Hey, I'm Matt Houseman, your guide to the 21st century. We got to talk about pop culture. I've been debating with woke nitwits over the Olympic opening ceremonies. That whole thing disgusts me. It's cringe. I need a break from that. I want to talk about the collapse of Hollywood and the upcoming imminent collapse of AAA video game companies. Hey, if you find this content valuable, please give it a like on whatever platform you're watching it on, either YouTube, Rumble, Locals, or Twitter, or Streamlabs. Share it with your friends and loved ones, and subscribe on whatever platform you're watching it on. So, this is from The Wrap. Superhero fatigue at Comic-Con. Fans and insiders say it's about quality, not quantity. Now, I'm only going to read the first few paragraphs. The Wrap is an establishment, corporate, Hollywood trade publication. You're not going to get, you're not going to get the mainstream opinion viewpoint from these clowns. But it's worth just, seeing what they're saying about things. Superhero fatigue is a nebulous concept that for at least a decade now has cropped up whenever a blockbuster comic book movie underperforms or flops. But in the last few years, as disappointment has become a new normal for DC and even mighty Marvel, so too have claims that superhero fatigue has finally set in. With two exceptions, every superhero film released at the start of 2023 has disappointed. None have topped $400 million box office or $1 billion globally, with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse coming closest and delivering solid box office totals. Three films failed to reach $100 million domestically, with Shazam! Fury of the Gods barely tipping over $50 million. Then came Marvel Studios' Deadpool and Wolverine, and that's the exception to the rule. See, numbers don't lie. Box office doesn't lie. Whatever you say about Hollywood accounting, numbers are what they are. And these Hollywood studios, whether it's Disney with Marvel or Warner Brothers with DC, they cannot turn a profit on these movies anymore. For so many years, comic book companies, the big two, Marvel and DC, their source material, the original comic books, barely sold anything since the 60s, the Silver Age. They made their money through merchandise and licensed TV shows and movies. So, and now that well is drying up. Deadpool and Wolverine really could be the last gasp of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It was a carryover from when Disney bought Fox and got the whole X-Men movie rights franchise. And this was a movie greenlit by Bob Chapek, who was the Disney CEO for a minute. And then he got kicked out by previous CEO Bob Iger. Chapek was just a fall guy for whatever calamity was going to befall during the COVID pandemic. Somehow Bob Iger saw it coming. He's got friends in high places. He knew the pandemic was coming. So he let Chapek take the fall for whatever struggles Disney's going through right now. Now, everyone knows that Bob Iger is a megalomaniac. We know that now. It's become apparent over so many flops, collapsing park attendants, over all the really good Disney Imagineers have been driven out of the company. They've gone over to a Universal. Universal has its own problems, and as far as like Warner Brothers and DC goes, I'll give their CEO David Zaslav credit for caring about the bottom line. He cares about saving money and paying off the company's debt, but he doesn't know Well, he doesn't know what sells at all. He's gutted animation in Warner Bros. Like Looney Tunes, all the DC animated movies. Finito, gone. Cartoon Network has become just the Teen Titans Go channel anymore. So David Zaslav knows what the money is, and a lot of that bloat that comes from superhero movies and media, it's got to go. It's not sustainable anymore. So before we move on, if you want to support this channel and this program, there are several different ways. I got affiliate links to different services in the description. Shout out to Blackout Coffee. Shout out to the Wellness Company. Shout out to Rechargeable, which I'm going to talk about later. But another way to support me is joining my locals page. I'm going to get better at posting some exclusive content on here. So if you want to see that exclusive content, you can buy a subscription, and you can even, and paid members even get to post on my page and join the conversation. So consider that. Now, coming back to the news articles here. This is from Bleeding Fool. Comic book retailers experienced massive sales declines last year. That's saying something, because Western comic books have been struggling, except for the independent scene. Manga from Japan has been steamrolling Western comics. You would think Western comics, Marvel and DC, would be swimming in it over the success of, at least, the MCU, but the ongoing success of DC shows. But no, they kept switching up the stars, the protagonists of their different comic book series, and kicking them to the curb. Case in point, Deadpool and Wolverine, huge hit. Everyone loves it. It's a nice cap to the Deadpool trilogy. Marvel Comics, the source material, the original Pauline, they just killed off Deadpool and replaced him with his daughter. I mean, people want to see Wade Wilson after seeing Deadpool and Wolverine. They want to see Wade Wilson in the comics. Movies and TV ought to be selling comics. Anime sells the manga that the anime is based on. I mean, shouldn't comic book companies give the people what they want? Well, they probably don't, because they're controlled by investors and shareholders who want to destroy Western civilization. We'll talk about that when we talk about my support from Actress Capital. But in a sign that Disney knows they need to at least keep up the charade of making the MCU seem popular, they brought back that Jr. was killed off in Avengers Endgame, and Robert Downey Jr. said publicly he was done with the role. Now they're bringing back as the evil villain Doctor Doom, and that Park Place, courtesy of their head honcho WW Pro, they think this is a cover for something, an even bigger surprise in an upcoming film. But this just reeks of desperation. I mean, in my opinion, the MCU should have ended at Endgame. Let Marvel movies just end, not do anything for a few years, and then reboot the movies, a new franchise, a new universe with younger actors. The thing is, comic book characters don't age, but real world actors do. I think Downey Jr. is probably in his 60s by now. God love him. He's probably in good shape for his age, but he can't keep this up. And when you consider all the other products that are in the pipeline right now, that you think about Captain America 4, Chris Evans is out of the MCU. He's done. So the mantle of Captain America was passed on to Falcon. But But Falcon is Falcon. He's not Captain America. You know, Falcon was a badass African American superhero in his own right, and they gave him the mantle of a white man. They're giving white people's hand-me-downs. I would be pissed if I was, a brother, but I don't know. Maybe I'd have a different, set of circumstances than either. So I don't know. But, but when you listen to like commentators like Doomcock getting his, reports from his Hollywood insiders, Captain America 4 is just it's a bloated production from hell. They keep having to reshoot the movie because each draft bombs with the test audiences, and it's turning into a boondoggle. Like, there's no way Captain America 4 is going to be profitable because they spent so much money in production already. Same thing happened in Star Wars with like The Acolyte, which just wrapped up on Disney Plus recently. It happened with Rise of Skywalker because plot leaks came out about Rise of Skywalker and pissed everyone off, so they thought, oh, we have to like redo it. That's Disney's MO these days, and they don't know what they're doing. Like I said, Bob Iger didn't just drive out the good, effective employees in the theme parks. He drove out the good, effective managers and business leaders out of the studios. I mean, anyone who is still working in a corporate Hollywood organization is either a bootlicker or a hack. Anyone else with real skill has gone somewhere else or they've gone independent, which I'll touch on a little bit later. But the fact that, things have gotten so bloated and they're running out of money, they're in such deep debt, it's causing a nosedive in Hollywood. And AAA video games are going to follow the same path in the next few years, as we'll talk about later. But coming back to the wrap, Hollywood workers grapple for a foothold in industry at a crossroads. So we had two major Hollywood strikes last year. We had the writer's strike and we had the Actors Guild. We had the Actors Guild go on strike, and they were concerned about AI taking their roles. They were concerned about a lot of things. They're worried about, sustainable wages and salaries in a very, very expensive state, mismanaged state, California. And what happened is, the studios, the big corporations, they took that opportunity to say, okay, we'll give you what you want, but we'll cut down on our content. They're saying we got to focus on quality over quantity. Well, by cutting out quantity, they're cutting lots of people's jobs, and people can't afford to live in California anymore. I mean, California and New York are economic wastelands anymore. It's really unfortunate. This article goes over the stories of a couple of different, people, just, frontline ground floor workers, employees on TV, and just the struggles they're going through. And I'm sad. It's unfortunate that their jobs are, they can't find work. But would you want to work for Hollywood the way it is right now? Or do you want to do your own thing? Like, I've been doing my own thing. It's a struggle. It's a roller coaster. It's feast and famine, but you cannot put a price on controlling your own schedule, controlling your time, and the flexibility of working for yourself. I'm sorry, So, one of the ways you can support me is clicking on the affiliate link to iTrust Capital. Now, one of the big reasons that I keep harping on why Hollywood Entertainment and why so many other big companies have gone woke and gone corrupt and violated the trust with their audiences and customers is because they're controlled by investors and shareholders who, well, not shareholders, but big big investment, money managers like BlackRock, like Vanguard, like State Street, like Blackstone, who control so many shares of a company, they can decide who's on the board, and they can set the agenda of those companies. So Midnight Edge talked about this. Lots of content creators have talked about ESG scores, DEI, all the regulations and demands that are frankly illegal in the United States because they're discriminatory. They're based on race, sex, gender, religion, things that are illegal to discriminate against or either to show bias for or against in the United States. But the money, folks, the financial industry gets at these terms. They are the real power behind a lot of the corporate corporate tyranny in this country. So there are two ways to fight that. Either file a class action lawsuit against these companies for failing their fiduciary duty, or you can move your retirement and you can remove your mutual funds out of the stock market and move them into a different asset like cryptocurrency or gold and silver. And that's where iTrust Capital comes in. You can click on the link, see if you're eligible to roll over your retirement plan or your IRA into something that's actually new and upcoming, or either that or safe and reliable like gold and silver. Bitcoin it had a dip the last few months, but it's roaring back thanks to the support of the rightful President Trump. He's been speaking at the Bitcoin conference, and Ethereum ETFs are becoming a thing. So this is not financial advice. This is just what I'm doing. It's just I'm just relaying information, but this is an option for you. Talk to your financial advisor first, and then consider iTrust Capital and take control of your money. If we take control of our money and our assets, we'll take back our freedom. Moving on. Hollywood is collapsing because it's gotten so bloated, and only lean, efficient, independent creators are going to be able to survive in the new economy. That's the case in the West. Now, it hasn't quite reached Japan yet, but we're seeing a lot of AAA, big budget gaming companies chase after that movie, TV clout. Hideo Kojima, who was the creator of the Metal Gear series, he was famous for including movie-like cutscenes in the series. You could tell he wanted to be a movie director just as much as he wanted to be a game creator. Video game companies think there's clout and there's prestige in being cinematic, in being dramatic, and creating storylines. They don't seem to realize the intrinsic value of gaming themselves, which a lot of young people, younger audiences, Gen Z, and even even younger Gen X who are my age realize, hey, there's lots of entertainment value in just video games the way they are, and the storytelling and entertainment value you can get from that. We see streaming, we see a lot of content creators stream themselves playing games. I'm thinking of doing streams myself. Like I've got a bunch of 2D games on my gaming PC right now. I've got the Mega Man X collection. I've got some indie games like Hollow Knight and River City Girls. And what's the other one? It's about that robot girl who drives a robot mech, and it's like very Mega Man style. But I'll think of the title later. But I'm thinking of streaming like old school or throwback style 2D games, and showing you some chill streams that way. But we'll see. We'll see if I can work it in my schedule. But back to my point. Like a Dragon TV series, first trailer revealed with Kento Kaku and Nishiki. This is based on a very popular game by Sega. Sega is a very revered gaming company. They used to make their own consoles before They got clobbered by PlayStation, but Japan, they may or may not be able to make a faithful adaptation of their video game series to TV. The US sure as hell can't, because the Halo live action series has been canceled by Paramount Plus. Now, I've listened to the reviews of the Halo TV series. It totally botches and ignores the source material. They actually show Master Chief's face, which is not supposed to happen. He's supposed to be like this anonymous, badass who you can imagine yourself being. You're not supposed to see his face. Just like you never hear Link's voice, you never hear Link from Legend of Zelda, you never hear him speak. You never see Master Chief's face. That's intentional, and they just blew it with this TV series. I mean, whatever Lee Schreiber's brother is on the past, he just blew it with this, by being in the series, and fans hated it, normies hated it. The fact that it lasted 2 seasons is a sign that Paramount and CBS, they probably had money coming in other than advertisers and Nielsen ratings. They probably had investor money, which goes back to the point that investors and financial institutions are driving this. They can push it along so far, but the money's going to run out. The money is running out because regular audiences and customers, they're pulling back. We are flexing our muscles ever since Bud Light and Target last year. Human beings intuitively know right and wrong. We are long past the whole conservative versus liberal argument. We're just facing right versus wrong, and whatever pretense the left and the Democrats and the establishment had over their ideas of right and wrong, they've abandoned it. I mean, the conservatives movement has taken over the center just by the fact that the left has abandoned it. Liberalism has good points, but the so-called liberals or the leftists, they've abandoned it. They've abandoned those good points, and MAGA is taking them over. And a lot of populist movements around the world, in Europe, in Latin America, in lots of countries, are taking over. And there you go. A few more examples of AAA gaming nosedive. Take-Two, the parent company of Rockstar Games, who make the renowned, super successful, most profitable franchise of all time, Grand Theft Auto. They're warning about review bombing, saying it can hurt profits. There is some very, very strong trepidation over the upcoming Grand Theft Auto 6. The thing about a lot of AAA gaming companies is the employees who made great games in the past have moved on. They've either retired or they've been pushed out. Just as good employees have been pushed out of Disney and Warner Brothers and Paramount and Universal, so they have been pushed out from Rockstar, Activision, Ubisoft, EA, Sega, Capcom, what have you. Anyone with talent or skill and integrity is doing things for them, or doing things on their own. But so Take-Two, they're covering their asses, saying, we expect some review bombing, some trolls saying, oh no, are going to get their trolls and shit posters are going to give us bad ratings. They're not genuine. We saw that with Star Wars. We saw that a lot with a lot of Disney properties. And review bombing goes 2 ways. They can either review bombing can be negative or it can be positive. It just really depends on what really matters is word of mouth and what people say to each other, aside from anonymous shit posting on ratings websites. The numbers don't lie when it comes to the next 2 titles here. Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. We're coming back to, the whole concept of superheroes. Justice League, based on DC Comics, published these games published by Rocksteady and Warner Brothers gaming division. They inserted a gender swap of the classic Batman villain, Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze's whole shtick was he was a scientist who specializes in cryotechnology in order to keep his wife alive, who has, a terminal illness, and he turned to crime in order to fund his research. Either that or take revenge on the suits who shut him down. Whichever iteration of the lore you come across. But they decided to gender swap Mr. Freeze and introduce Mrs. Freeze, who's in a same-sex marriage with a wife in cryo. So now, are we homophobic? 2 or 3 or 5 years ago we would have said no, but after all the strange displays of grooming and hormone blocking via from the trans movement, we're taking a second look at the whole gay rights movement and wondering if our ancestors were right about them all along. I mean, my general position towards the LGBT community is compassion, because I don't think most of them chose to be the way they are. I have Tourette's syndrome and ADHD. I didn't choose my disorders, so I have sympathy for anyone else who is different. But I also treat my disorders as disorders. I don't celebrate them. I don't try to make people pretend that I'm stunning and brave. These people do. They celebrate their disorders, so that ain't cool. That's when I kind of made that connection between disorders. That's when my support for same-sex marriage ended, and since then, when you consider all the trauma and possible abuse that happens to children in relation to this mindset, then it goes into a much darker realm. And people are becoming aware of that ever since the last year, especially with, the Bud Line Target boycotts, along with the runaway success of Sound of Freedom, the issue of child trafficking, of human trafficking. Everyone who's paying attention has their ear pricked up on the topic of abuse. And everyone has their ears pricked up about Sweet Baby Inc. Sweet Baby Inc. was the consulting company that, foists DEI, ESG content on video game, major AAA gaming companies. They did it to Rocksteady, they did the Justice League game, and they also did it to this game, Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn. It loses nearly 70% of its already anemic player base in just over a week. So this game's a flop. Who published this game? Developed by A44 Games with the help of Sweet Baby Inc. and published by Kepler Interactive. Not a household name among studios, but I can't imagine they're going to make a profit on this. I don't know who invested in it. I don't know who funded it. I hope, God, it wasn't crowdfunded, but who knows? But this game is going nowhere because the money's not there. The only way this company stays afloat is investor capital long enough to produce a genuine game that the customers and audiences appreciate. Coming back to that Park Place, Japanese players excoriate Ubisoft after they apologize, creating concern within the Japanese community with Assassin's Creed Shadows. Anyone who follows gaming knows about this. The Assassin's Creed series, going back, I think at least 15 years, each of the games are set in a different period in history, in a different part of the world. There's been the Crusades in Jerusalem. There's been ancient Egypt. There's been the Viking Age. There's been the American Revolution. They finally decided to set a game in feudal Japan. That would have been, oh, what a perfect opportunity to include some ninja stealth action. No, they're including an obscure historical figure named Yasuke. They're making him the protagonist, and there was a real African man, so-called who went by Yasuke. He was supposed to be like a retainer to the warlord Oda Nobunaga, but he didn't really have a great high rank in Japanese society. He was kind of treated as a oddity among the Japanese people. I mean, whatever, he may have treated well, but he wasn't really treated as a mainstream high-ranking member of society. And a lot of people in Ubisoft and Western scholars are saying, oh yeah, he was a samurai. He was part of the ruling class. He was part of the elite warrior class. And genuine scholars and historical experts in Japan are, I'm trying to think of a word that's got enough oomph. They are raising that argument to the ground. It might even cause an international incident between Japan and France. Ubisoft is a French company. My heart goes out to the French people, the regular folks, because they're struggling just like regular folks are struggling in my country. But their ruling class, their elites are sick in the head. I mean, you got to be in order to steal an election like they did earlier this month. And they got to be sick in the head in order to do what they did at the Olympic opening ceremonies. But that's another topic which I'm not sure I want to delve into after wading into it on Facebook. But this is another case of bloat, hubris, and just arrogant pride and insanity taking root in AAA, in a big budget gaming studio. So people are gonna, I don't know if Ubisoft is gonna survive this, boondoggle. They'd have to make a lot of money from microtransactions and different tiers of their price of their more expensive tiers of the main titles. But a lot of gamers are just walking away. To wrap things up, we get this story from Bounty and Comics. Video game voice actors go on strike, demand fair compensation and the right of informed consent for the AI use of their faces, voices, and bodies. So, AI, video game voice actors are doing the same thing that actors and writers in Hollywood did last year. They're going on strike. Is this a good time? It was the worst possible time to do it in Hollywood. AAA gaming is struggling thanks to the whole ESG DEI agenda. Voice actors would be better off working in the indie scene. That's funded by either small investors or crowdfunded that have leaner budgets. But apparently actors, anyone who pursues that profession, they just don't have their heads on right. I mean, I dabbled in acting back in church when I started different like Christmas pageants, but it was a struggle for me. I mean, I'm better off playing music, or speaking off the cuff like I am right now. I'm terrible at pretending to be someone else. I'm just too genuine. Anyone who could pretend to be someone else, I mean, more power to you if you have that ability. But I gotta wonder if you have other you have other if you're lacking other critical faculties. I don't know. But the fact that voice actors are following the footsteps of Hollywood actors. I think Hollywood is the man, are the people from gaming's future. Anyone who wants to succeed needs to do it on their own terms. They're not, the big corpos, the big, establishment stooges. They're not gonna last much longer in the world to come. So I will leave it at that. Let's see if I got any super chats on the stream. Checking Streamlabs. Hey, that's cool. That's fine. Hey, this video will be up on Twitter and all the other platforms, so you can check it out later. Hey, I'm gonna wrap this up, but keep in mind, take charge of your desk. Take control of your freedom. Take back your freedom by taking control of your money and your time and your schedule. Invest in alternative assets. Find your passion in your side hustle, and stick to the man. I'm a houseman letting you go, and I want to let you know it's okay to stand up for yourself. Over and out.